Laminate flooring with Versalock lock-in-place technology from Shaw Industries is quick and easy to install and ready to walk on immediately. This is a floating installation system, therefore, an expansion gap must be maintained around the perimeter and any stationary objects. The gap should be equal to the thickness of the product. 12mm planks require a 3/8 inch gap, and 8mm planks need a 1/4 inch gap. Door jambs must be undercut high enough to allow the planks to float, and deep enough to maintain the expansion gap. Undercut the molding by laying a piece of the flooring over a piece of underlayment to use as a guide when cutting. Cut back to the wall studs to allow for expansion. No acclimation of the laminate flooring is needed if the area to be installed is climate controlled between 65 and 85 degrees and 35 to 65% relative humidity. Start in a room cleared of previous flooring and trim. The floor must be sound, secure, clean, dry, and flat within 1/8 inch and 6 feet. Molding tracks should be anchored to the subfloor at all doorways less than 6 feet wide and where the laminate meets other flooring, as well as exterior doors and hearths. The expansion gap must be included at the molding track. You have multiple choices of Shaw underlayments with varying features and benefits, including moisture barriers, sound absorption, and thermal installation. Celotax's fanfold design allows quick layout of the product, and the printed grid allows you to make cuts quickly and easily. It's simple to connect with the latch system, and tape is only necessary when installing over concrete. Silent Step Ultra is simply rolled out with the black polyethylene side down. If installing over concrete, peel the cover from the attached adhesive strip for superior moisture control. Determine which direction you want to run the planks. Measure the rim accurately to calculate the width of the planks needed for the first and last row. You want to have close to equal widths at both sides of the room, but definitely not less than 2 inches on the last row. Start at the left corner of your start wall and assemble your first row of planks, moving left to right. If the wall is straight, trim the start row, if needed, to adjust the width of the final row. Here, we cut the first row in half to allow the last row to fill the doorway. The trimmed off portion of the first row can be cut to use for spacers. Glue the end joints with tongue and groove adhesive. The use of blue painter's tape for delicate surfaces is recommended to prevent shifting of the planks while the glue sets. Measure and cut the last plank in the row, allowing for the 3/8 inch expansion gap at both ends of the row. If the last plank will be less than 6 inches, shorten the first plank in the row to compensate. Place spacers between the start wall and the first row. Start the second row with the piece cut off the last plank in the first row if it's at least 6 inches long. If not, cut a new plank 16 to 32 inches long. Place a spacer at the side wall. For the next plank, engage the side tongue and groove. Align the end joints and rotate the board downward to lock the end joints. Continue by engaging the sides, aligning the ends, dropping and locking. Once again, measure and cut the last plank in the row. The rows of planks should be randomly staggered with at least 12 inches between end joints. Work from at least 3 boxes at a time to help randomize the planks and create a more pleasing appearance. If the start wall is not straight, assemble several rows to allow room to work on top of the planks. Push the assembled flooring against the spacers at the start wall. Pattern scribe the wall onto the first row. Use a scrap piece cut to size to yield the previously calculated width. Continue the job, adding spacers to the ends of rows or moving the spacer as you go to maintain the expansion gap. Occasionally, step back and get an overall view to prevent blocks of light or dark boards and/or the same pattern element repeating too close to itself. The last row will probably need to be trimmed. Either measure and trim or use a scrap piece of full width plank to scribe the width onto the new planks for the last row. Leave the tongue and groove on the scrap piece to allow for the needed expansion gap. End joints for the last row must be glued the same as the first row. When you get to a door jamb or other obstacle that prevents lifting the plank to engage the tongue in the groove, use a rasp or chisel to remove the ridge from the groove. Place a bead of tongue and groove adhesive on the groove and slide the plank in place. Use painter's tape on the face to hold the joint tightly together until the adhesive sets. A pull bar can help ensure a tight fit before taping. Finally, install your trim molding. In this case, a T-molding at the door and quarter round at the perimeter of the room. Now, step back and admire your new floor. Brought to you by the Shaw Learning Academy and the Product Support Group.